The explosion lit up the night sky over New Haven like a second sun. Jake Morrison dropped the wrench he was holding and ran outside his workshop. Fire streaked across the darkness, heading straight for the hills behind his property. The crash shook the ground hard enough to rattle his teeth. Jake grabbed his emergency kit and climbed into his old transport vehicle. His heart pounded as he drove toward the crash site. 5 years of quiet living on this frontier colony, and now this. He'd seen enough crashes during his military days to know someone might still be alive out there. The wreckage was worse than he expected. The alien ship had torn through 3 hills before finally stopping. Metal groaned and hissed. Small fires burned everywhere. Jake pulled on his breathing mask and approached carefully. The ship design was Vakrian. Everyone in the galaxy knew the Vakrians. They were the warriors, the conquerors, the ones you didn't mess with. He found the pilot slumped in the cockpit. The Vakrian was massive, even sitting down. Scales covered his body, dark blue and silver. Blood leaked from dozens of wounds. His eyes opened when Jake touched his shoulder. They were gold, bright and aware despite the pain. Human, the Vakrian whispered. His translator device still worked, turning his words into English. "You must help me." "I'm here," Jake said. "Let me get you out." "No time. I am dying." The Vakrian coughed and more blood came. "My cubs, you must take my cubs." Jake froze. "What?" The Vakrian grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Behind the cockpit. 3 cubs. The High Council wants them dead. They will hunt them, but they will not look among humans. They think you are weak. Beneath notice. I can't just take your kids," Jake said. "I don't know anything about raising Vakrians. Please." The Vakrian's grip weakened. "I am Kronzar, Alpha of the 7th Fleet. I tried to stop the corruption in our government. I failed. They killed my mate. They want my bloodline ended. The cubs are innocent. Hide them, raise them. They are smart. They will learn." His eyes dimmed. "Tell them their father loved them." Kronzar died before Jake could answer. For a long moment, Jake just sat there in the smoking wreckage, trying to process what just happened. Then he heard it. A soft chirping sound from deeper in the ship. He found them in a protected chamber behind the cockpit. 3 small Vakrians, none bigger than a medium dog. They huddled together, their scales catching the emergency lights. The biggest one hissed at him, trying to sound fierce. The smallest one just stared with huge golden eyes. "Okay," Jake said quietly. "Okay, I've got you." Getting them back to his homestead took 2 trips. They didn't trust him at first, snapping and growling. But they were scared and alone, and eventually they let him carry them. By the time the sun rose, Jake had 3 alien cubs sleeping in his spare room and a crashed ship to explain. Linda Hayes showed up an hour later. She ran the colony administration, and nothing happened in New Haven without her knowing. She stood in Jake's living room, staring at the cubs. "Tell me those aren't Vakrian cubs," she said. "I can't tell you that," Jake said. "Jake, the Vakrians will come looking. Their father said the Vakrians want them dead. Some political thing. A coup that failed." Jake poured coffee for both of them. "He asked me to hide them. Said the Vakrians wouldn't look for them with humans." Linda sat down hard. "You know what happens if they find out we're hiding them?" "Yeah, but I also know what happens if we give them back. They're kids, Linda. Someone tried to kill them for who their father was." She was quiet for a long time, drinking her coffee and thinking. Finally, she sighed. "We'll need to create records. Say there's some endangered species you're rehabilitating. I can make that work. But Jake, if this goes wrong, it's both our necks." "I know. Thank you." The cubs woke up hungry and scared. Jake tried offering them regular food, but they wouldn't touch it. He remembered Vakrians were carnivores and gave them raw meat from his freezer. They ate like they were starving, making small, pleased sounds. Over the next few days, Jake learned fast. The cubs were young but already smart. The biggest one, a female, watched everything he did. The middle one, another female, started exploring his workshop and figuring out how his tools worked. The smallest, a male, followed Jake everywhere. He named them based on what their father had called them in his last words. Sarah, Kale, and Rin. Simple names they could grow into. They seemed to understand more than they should. By the end of the first week, they recognized their names. By the end of the first month, they started making sounds that resembled human words. Jake's neighbors asked questions. He stuck to Linda's story about rehabilitation. Most people accepted it. A few looked suspicious but kept quiet. Life on a frontier colony taught you to mind your own business. 3 months after the crash, Rin spoke his first clear sentence. Jake is safe. Jake nearly dropped the plate he was holding. He looked down at the small Vakrian cub sitting at his feet. What did you say? Jake is safe, Rin repeated. We trust Jake. The other 2 cubs stopped what they were doing. Zara walked over and nudged Jake's leg with her head. Father said trust the human. We trust Jake. Something broke open in Jake's chest. He hadn't felt this kind of connection since his wife died. He knelt down and the cubs pressed against him, making that pleased humming sound he'd learned meant they felt content. I'll keep you safe, he promised them, no matter what it takes. Kyle tilted her head. We know. Jake is family now. That night, Jake sat on his porch and watched the 3 cubs play in his yard. They chased each other around, tumbling and wrestling like puppies. But they weren't puppies. They were Vakrians, members of the most dangerous warrior race in the galaxy, and somehow they were his responsibility now. He thought about Kronzar's last words. The dying Alpha had trusted a human stranger with his most precious possession. He'd believed that someone from a species the Vakrians considered weak could protect his children better than his own kind could. Jake didn't know if he was making the right choice. He didn't know if he could actually keep 3 Vakrian cubs hidden and safe. He didn't know how to raise alien children or what their future would look like. But he knew one thing for certain. Those 3 cubs weren't going to die because of politics they didn't understand. They weren't going to pay for their father's choices. They deserved a chance to grow up, to decide their own futures, to be more than just casualties of someone else's war. So Jake Morrison, a widowed mechanic on a forgotten colony, became a father again. Not to human children, but to 3 alien cubs who would one day change the galaxy. He didn't know that part yet. Right now, he just knew they needed him, and that was enough. 15 years changed everything. The small cubs Jake had hidden in his spare room grew into young adults who towered over most humans. But despite their size and their scales and their sharp teeth, they moved through New Haven like they belonged, because they did belong. This was their home. Zara graduated top of her class from the Colony Defense Academy. She could pilot anything with engines and wings. The instructor said she had instincts that couldn't be taught, like she could feel what a ship needed before the instruments told her. She stood nearly 7 feet tall now, her scales dark blue like her father's had been. When she smiled, which was often, humans smiled back. When she got serious, smart people paid attention. Kale spent her days in Jake's workshop, though calling it just a workshop anymore was wrong. She'd expanded it into a proper engineering facility. Her designs for ship engines had caught attention from the colony's industrial committee. She was quieter than Zara, more thoughtful. She liked to take things apart and put them back together better than before. Her scales had a greenish tint that caught the light in interesting ways. Rin studied medicine and diplomacy at the Colony University. He was the smallest of the 3, only 6.5 feet tall. His scales were lighter, almost silver. He volunteered at the Colony Hospital, and people said he had a gift for making patients feel calm. He could talk to anyone about anything and make them feel heard. Jake was proudest of Rin's kindness, even though all 3 of his kids made him proud every single day. People called them the Morrison kids. They had Vakrian first names and a human last name. They spoke English better than some humans and could curse in 5 other languages. They loved human food, especially pizza. They'd grown up watching human movies and reading human books and learning human history. They knew more about Earth than most colonists did. Jake had gray hair now and his back hurt in the mornings, but watching his kids thrive made every ache worth it. He'd told them everything about their real father when they turned 10. They'd cried for the father they never knew and thanked Jake for the father he'd become. They never forgot they were Vakrian, but they thought like humans. They valued what humans valued: freedom, choice, the idea that everyone deserved a chance. Then a Vakrian patrol ship arrived at New Haven. Just a routine inspection, they said. The commander's name was Draktar, and he walked through the colony like he owned it. His eyes lingered too long on Zara when she passed by the landing area. That night, Jake got a warning from Linda. She looked older too, the years of running a colony showing in the lines around her eyes. The Vakrian commander asked questions about your kids. Specific questions about where they came from, about their parentage. Jake felt ice in his stomach. What did you tell him? The official story. Endangered species, rehabilitation, adoption. She shook her head. But Jake, he didn't believe it. I could see it in his eyes. He knows what they are. Jake called an emergency family meeting. His 3 kids sat in the living room where they'd played as cubs. They weren't cubs anymore. They were adults, smart and capable, but they were still his kids and someone was threatening them. We need to leave, Jake said. The Vakrians know you're here. If they report back to the High Council, they'll come for you. Let them come, Zara said. Her voice had gone hard. I'm not running. You don't understand what the High Council is capable of, Jake said. Your father died trying to fight them. They'll kill you just for existing. Kale was already thinking. We could fight. The colony has defenses. We have people who would help. And how many of those people die when the Vakrian fleet shows up? Rin asked quietly. How many colonists pay for hiding us? The room went silent. That was the real question. They could maybe fight, maybe even win a battle. But then the whole colony would be marked. Everyone who'd ever helped them would be in danger. There's another option, Kale said slowly. The prototype ship I've been working on. The one the colony commissioned. It's fast, faster than anything the Vakrians have. We could take it and disappear. That's theft, Jake said. So is kidnapping Vakrian nobility, but you did it anyway. Zara smiled at him. We learned from the best. They planned through the night. Ben Carter, an ex-soldier who'd helped train Zara, volunteered to come. Nicole Wright from Navigation and Chris Palmer from Communications joined too. A dozen others signed on. People who'd known the Morrison kids all their lives and refused to see them handed over to be killed. Linda helped them access the prototype ship. I'll tell them you stole it. I'll make sure the colony doesn't take blame. But Jake, you're burning every bridge here. I burned my bridges 15 years ago when I took in 3 alien cubs, Jake said. Never regretted it once. The ship was beautiful, a mix of human innovation and Kale's genius, sleek and deadly and faster than anything in the sector. They loaded supplies in the dark, working quickly. Zara ran pre-flight checks. Kale made last-minute adjustments to the engines. Rin helped coordinate everyone's movements. The Vakrian patrol ship detected their launch. Draktar himself hailed them. Morrison vessel, you are ordered to stand down. You are in possession of stolen property and harboring Vakrian fugitives. Zara took the communication. This is Zara Morrison. We're citizens of New Haven leaving of our own free will. We haven't committed any crimes. You are the offspring of the traitor Kronzar. You will return to face Vakrian justice. Justice? Zara's voice could have cut steel. You want to execute us for our father's choices. That's not justice. That's murder. If you run, we will hunt you. The High Council's reach is long. Then we'll run far. Zara cut the connection and looked at Kale. Can we outrun them? Please. This ship is 3 generations ahead of that garbage. Kale's hands flew over her controls. Hold on. The prototype ship jumped to faster-than-light speed so quickly that the Vakrian patrol ship didn't have time to follow. They raced into unexplored space, leaving behind the only home the Morrison kids had ever known. Jake stood on the bridge, watching New Haven disappear behind them. He'd built a life there, made friends, found peace after losing his wife, and now he was a fugitive at 60 years old, running into unknown space with his 3 alien children and a crew of volunteers. You okay? Rin asked, coming to stand beside him. Yeah, Jake said. I'm okay. We'll find somewhere safe, somewhere they can't reach. I know, because you 3 are brilliant and stubborn and everything I could have hoped for. Rin made that humming sound they still made when they were happy. We learned from you. I just taught you to be decent people. That's more than most get taught. Rin put a hand on his shoulder. It was a human gesture, learned and adapted. We're going to be fine. All of us. The ship raced deeper into uncharted space. Behind them, the Vakrian patrol ship reported back to the High Council. 3 fugitives with Kronzar's bloodline raised by humans now loose in the galaxy. The Council sent out hunters. They offered rewards. They demanded the fugitives be returned, but the galaxy was big, and the Morrison kids had something the Vakrians didn't. They had their father's intelligence and strength, combined with human creativity and determination. They had each other. They had Jake, and they had a ship that could outrun anything the Council sent after them. In the darkness of unexplored space, they would find others like them. Refugees and outcasts and people who were tired of empires telling them how to live. And from that, they would build something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. But that part of the story was still ahead of them. Right now, they were just a family running for their lives, hoping they'd live long enough to prove that different ways of thinking could change everything. Jake looked at his 3 kids working together on the bridge, and despite everything, he smiled. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The asteroid field looked like chaos, but it was perfect. Huge rocks floating in patterns that made navigation nearly impossible for anyone who didn't know the safe routes. Kale mapped it all in 3 days, finding paths that even advanced sensors couldn't track. They established a base inside the largest asteroid, carving out rooms and facilities with mining equipment they'd salvaged from an abandoned station. The crew worked hard. Ben Carter organized security. Nicole Wright set up navigation beacons on the safe routes. Chris Palmer built a communication network that could reach across star systems without being traced. Jake helped where his old mechanic skills were useful and offered advice when asked. His kids listened, but they were the leaders now. He'd raised them to be independent, and they were proving it every day. 2 months after arriving, they encountered their first refugees. A ship limped into the asteroid field, barely functioning. Inside were 6 Tereth insectoid beings about 4 feet tall with 4 arms and compound eyes. They'd fled their homeworld after a larger empire enslaved their people for labor. Rin met them first, speaking slowly and using a translation device. The Tereth were scared, expecting to be turned away or worse. Instead, Rin offered them food, medical care, and shelter. "We're refugees too," he explained, "running from people who want us dead. You're safe here." The Tereth stayed. They were incredible engineers, and they helped expand the base with techniques humans had never seen. Within weeks, the asteroid base had doubled in size. More importantly, word spread. A safe place existed in the uncharted regions, a place where refugees were welcome. More ships arrived. The Qual came next. Plant-based beings who'd fled after their peaceful world was destroyed for resources. Then scattered human colonists who'd rejected Earth's corrupt government. A group of Vacrian soldiers who'd deserted rather than commit atrocities. Each group brought skills and knowledge. Each group added to their growing community. Zara, Kael, and Rin held a meeting 6 months after establishing the base. Nearly 50 different beings packed into the main hall they'd carved from rock. Different species, different languages, different cultures, all united by one thing. They'd been hurt by the empires that ruled the galaxy. "We can't just hide forever," Zara said, standing before the crowd. "More refugees arrive every week. Eventually, someone will find us. We need to be ready." "Ready for what?" asked one of the Vacrian deserters. "We can't fight the High Council. They have thousands of ships." "We don't fight like they fight," Kyle said, stepping forward. "I've been working on new ship designs, combining Vacrian durability with human innovation and Tereth engineering. We can build ships better than anything the empires have." "But who flies them?" asked Aqual. "We're farmers and engineers and medics. Not warriors." "Then we learn," Ben said. "I can teach anyone to fight. More importantly, I can teach you to fight together. Each species has strengths. We combine them." Rin raised his hands for quiet. "Before we talk about fighting, we need to talk about why we're here. What makes us different from the empires we ran from? I propose we create something new. Not an empire. A coalition. Every species has equal voice. Every world that joins does so by choice. We defend each other. We share technology. We trade freely. Power doesn't come from military strength alone. It comes from working together." The hall was silent. The idea was radical. In galactic politics, might made right. The strong ruled the weak. Always had. But these weren't the strong. These were the survivors, the forgotten, the rejected. Maybe they could try something different. A Tereth engineer raised one of her 4 hands. "How do we make decisions?" "Who leads?" "We vote," Zara said. "On everything important. Military actions, membership, trade agreements. One species, one vote. Size doesn't matter. Power doesn't matter. Each voice is equal. The humans will outvote everyone," someone objected. "There's more of you." "Then we limit it," Jake said, speaking up from the back. Everyone turned to look at the old human who'd started this all. "One vote per species, not per person. Keeps things balanced. And maybe we require a majority for normal decisions, but need everyone to agree on really big stuff. Like going to war." The discussions went on for hours. They argued and debated and slowly built something new. The Free Worlds Coalition, they called it. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. They wrote down rules and rights and responsibilities. Every being had value. Every species contributed. No one was beneath anyone else. Word spread faster after that. More refugees arrived, drawn by the promise of equality and safety. The coalition grew from dozens to hundreds to thousands. They claimed more asteroids than small uninhabited planets. Kale's shipyards produced vessels that combined the best of every species' technology. Ben's training programs created military units where humans and Tereth and Qual fought side by side. Jake watched his children lead. Zara commanded the growing fleet with tactical genius that made veterans respect her. Kale revolutionized ship design so thoroughly that coalition vessels were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything the major powers possessed. Rin traveled to new refugee groups, negotiating and welcoming and slowly building a network of allies that spanned sectors. 5 years passed. The coalition controlled territory that rivaled some of the smaller empires. Their economy boomed because free trade benefited everyone. Their military was small but incredibly skilled. Most importantly, they had something the empires didn't. They had loyalty earned through respect, not forced through fear. The major powers noticed. The Vakrian High Council sent scouts who never returned. The Sorov Empire tried infiltrating agents who defected after seeing what the coalition offered. The Trade Confederacy attempted economic pressure, but the coalition's self-sufficiency made them immune. Jake grew older, his hair white now, his movements slower. But he still offered wisdom when his kids needed it. He reminded them why they'd started this. Not to build another empire, not to conquer, to give people a choice, to prove that cooperation beat domination. "Do you think it'll work?" Zara asked him one evening. They stood on an observation deck, watching coalition ships patrol their borders. "Long term, I mean. Can we really change how the galaxy works?" "You already have," Jake said. "Look at this place. Dozens of species living together, protecting each other, building together. The empires said that was impossible. You proved them wrong. The Vakrian High Council won't accept it. Neither will the others. Eventually they'll come for us. Probably." Jake put his hand on her shoulder. She was so much bigger than him now, but she leaned into his touch like she had as a cub. "But when they do, you'll be ready. You've got the best fleet, the best people, and the best reason to fight. You're not fighting for conquest. You're fighting for freedom." "Dad," Zara said softly. She rarely called him that, usually using his name. "Thank you. For everything. For taking us in. For raising us right. For believing we could be more than what we were born to be. You three are the best thing that ever happened to me," Jake said honestly. "Your father trusted me with you. Best decision anyone ever made." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their coalition grow stronger. Neither knew that within the year, the Vakrian High Council would launch a massive invasion. Neither knew that the battle would change the galaxy forever. Neither knew that Jake's time was running short. But in that moment they had peace. A mechanic and his adopted daughter, watching a community they'd built together thrive. Proof that kindness could be powerful. That different didn't mean lesser. That 3 abandoned cubs and 1 stubborn human could start something that empires couldn't stop. The coalition was ready. Not just for war, but for what came after. They'd shown refugees that hope existed. Soon they'd show the empires that their way of ruling was ending. Not through violence, but through something far more dangerous to tyrants everywhere. The simple idea that people deserved better. The Vakrian High Council made their move on a Tuesday. 25 years after Jake found 3 cubs in a crashed ship, 5,000 Vakrian warships entered coalition space. It was the largest fleet anyone had seen in generations. Their message was simple. Surrender the traitors Zara, Kale, and Rin Morrison for execution. Disband the coalition. Return all refugees to their homeworlds for judgment. Submit to Vakrian authority or be destroyed. Zara stood on the bridge of her flagship reading the ultimatum. She was 40 years old now, measured in human years. She'd spent most of her life building this coalition. Behind her stood her command crew, a mix of species who'd trained together for years. Ben Carter, gray-haired but still sharp, served as her tactical advisor. Nicole Wright managed fleet coordination. They'd all known this day would come. "Send them our response," Zara said calmly. "The Free Worlds Coalition recognizes no authority but our own. We will not surrender our leaders. We will not abandon our principles. We will defend our freedom. If the Vakrian High Council wants war, they'll get one they'll never forget." The fleets met at the border region both sides called the neutral zone. The Vakrian fleet outnumbered them 3-1. Traditional military thinking said the coalition was doomed. Traditional military thinking didn't account for what the Morrison siblings had built. Kale's ships moved like nothing the Vakrians had seen. They combined Vakrian armor with human agility and Tereth precision engineering. They could turn faster, accelerate quicker, and hit harder than the Council's outdated vessels. But more importantly, they fought together in ways the Vakrians couldn't match. Ben's training showed its worth in the first engagement. Human pilots worked with Tereth gunners and Qual tactical analysts. Each species' strengths covered another's weaknesses. They didn't just coordinate. They thought as one unified force. The Tereth unleashed combat drones, thousands of small craft that swarmed enemy ships like insects. The Qual deployed biological weapons that disabled ship systems without killing crews. Humans hacked into Vakrian communications, spreading confusion and doubt. And the Vakrian deserters who joined the coalition knew every weakness in the High Council's tactics. The battle lasted 3 days. The Vakrian fleet commander, certain of his numerical advantage, pushed forward aggressively. Zara led him. She drew his ships deeper into the neutral zone, spreading them thin. Then she struck from multiple directions at once, cutting off supply lines and isolating sections of his fleet. On the second day, Rin broadcast a message on open channels. Every ship in both fleets heard it. Vakrian warriors, you fight your own people today. Zara, Kale, and I are children of Krunzar, Alpha of the 7th Fleet. Our father died trying to end corruption in our government. The High Council murdered him and hunted us for being his children. Is this the honor our species claims to value? Killing cubs for their father's beliefs? We offer amnesty to any who stand down. Join us and help build a better future. Or continue fighting for leaders who see you as tools to be used and discarded. The message spread through the Vakrian fleet like fire. Young warriors who'd never questioned their orders suddenly had to think about what they were doing. The Council had sold this as crushing rebels and traitors. But Rin's words painted a different picture. They were attacking refugees and killing their own kind. Ships began defecting. First one, then 10, then hundreds. Entire squadrons broke formation and declared for the coalition. Vakrian warriors who'd spent their lives following orders chose something different. They chose to think for themselves. The fleet commander ordered his ships to fire on the defectors. That decision broke his fleet entirely. More ships defected, others stopped fighting altogether. By the third day, less than half his original force still obeyed orders. The battle ended not with the coalition's destruction, but with the High Council's fleet in chaos. Zara could have destroyed what remained. Her ships had the advantage now, but she remembered what Jake had taught them. We don't win by becoming like them. We win by being better than them. She offered surrender terms. All Vakrian ships that stood down would be allowed to leave. No one would be prosecuted for following orders. The only criminals were the High Council members who'd sent them. Most of the remaining fleet accepted. Some fled back to Vakrian space. A few fought to the bitter end and died for leaders who didn't care about them. The victory sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The coalition had defeated the strongest military power in known space. Not through overwhelming force, but through superior tactics, better technology, and an idea worth fighting for. Refugees on dozens of worlds heard the news and gained hope. Oppressed people under Empire rule started questioning why they submitted. Jake watched the battle reports from the medical center on the coalition's capital world. His heart was failing, the doctors said. Too old, too much stress, too many years. He'd held on to see his kids safe. Now he could rest. They came to him after the battle. Zara still in her combat uniform. Kyle with grease under her nails from emergency ship repairs. Rin exhausted from 3 days of non-stop diplomatic work with defectors. They crowded into his small room and Jake smiled at them. You did good, he said. His voice was weak, but they heard him clearly. Your father would be proud. I'm proud. Don't talk like that, Zara said. You'll be fine. The doctors are working on treatments. I'm 80 years old and my heart is worn out. It's okay. I got to see you 3 grow up. Got to see you build something amazing. That's more than most people get. Kyle held his hand carefully. Her claws could tear metal, but her touch was gentle. We couldn't have done any of this without you. Sure you could. I just showed you it was possible to care about people different from yourself. You 3 did the rest. He looked at each of them. You're not finished. The council will fall apart now, but other empires will test you. Keep building. Keep welcoming refugees. Keep proving that cooperation beats domination. We will, Rin promised. We'll make sure everyone knows what you did for us. What you taught us. Don't make me into some legend. I was just a mechanic who found 3 cubs and did what anyone decent would do. Jake's breathing got harder. You showed them that different doesn't mean lesser. That kindness is strength. That family isn't about blood, it's about choice. Keep showing them that. He died with his 3 children around him, the cubs he'd saved now grown into leaders who'd changed the galaxy. They cried for him, these huge powerful beings who commanded fleets and built empires. They cried for the human father who'd given them everything. The coalition held a memorial that brought together thousands of beings from hundreds of species. They built a statue on the capital world, Jake Morrison holding 3 small cubs with words carved beneath. He saw not aliens but children. He taught not domination but love. From his example, a galaxy learned to be free. Zara, Kale, and Rin stood before that statue and made a promise. They'd finish what Jake started. They'd keep building a galaxy where everyone had a choice, where power came from respect, not fear, where being different was celebrated, not punished. The war was won. But the real work was just beginning. The Vakrian High Council was fracturing. Other empires were watching nervously. And the coalition had proven something dangerous to tyrants everywhere, that people could govern themselves, that freedom was worth fighting for, that 3 abandoned cubs raised by a good man could change everything. Jake was gone, but what he'd started couldn't be stopped. 5 years after Jake's death, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. The Vakrian High Council collapsed under internal rebellion. Warriors who'd defected to the coalition returned home and told their people what they'd seen, a place where Vakrians weren't defined by conquest, where their strength served protection instead of domination. The homeworld erupted in demonstrations and protests. The corrupt council members fled or were arrested. A new democratic government formed, inspired by the coalition's example. Zara, Kale, and Rin returned to their birth world, not as conquerors, but as liberators. They walked streets their father had walked, met people who remembered Kronzar. The new Vakrian government asked to join the coalition. The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed to welcome them. The transformation was remarkable. Vakrian warriors who'd once terrorized other species now served in coalition defense forces, alongside those they'd once oppressed. They learned to use their strength for good. Young Vakrians grew up hearing stories about the Morrison siblings, proof that their species could be more than destroyers. The coalition grew larger every month. Planets that had been conquered by empires declared independence and requested membership. Refugee groups that had hidden in the dark edges of space came forward. Each new member brought unique skills and knowledge. Each new culture added richness to the coalition's diversity. Zara served as supreme military coordinator, but it wasn't a position of absolute power. She was elected to 4-year terms and could be removed by vote. She commanded the defense forces but couldn't declare war without approval from the Council of Species. Every major military decision was debated and voted on. It was slower than the old empire's command structure, but it was fair. And the soldiers fought harder, knowing their leaders were accountable to them. Kale led the Technology Sharing Committee. Under her guidance, the coalition abandoned the old model of hoarding scientific advances. Instead, every breakthrough was shared freely among member worlds. This created an explosion of innovation. Scientists from different species collaborated in ways never seen before. Medical advances from the Qual saved human lives. Human computer systems enhanced Terrath engineering. Vakrian materials science combined with dozens of other techniques to create wonders. The coalition's ships became the most advanced in the galaxy. Not because they stole technology, but because they shared it. A Terrath engineer could improve a human design, which a Vakrian mechanic could then make more durable. Knowledge built on knowledge. Progress accelerated. Rin served as first ambassador, traveling constantly between worlds. He welcomed new members and negotiated with the remaining empires. His approach was consistent. The coalition wanted peace but would defend itself if threatened. They wouldn't attack anyone, but they wouldn't be conquered. They offered trade, cultural exchange, and cooperation to anyone willing to treat them as equals. Some empires tried to fight. The Sorov Empire launched an invasion, confident their military could succeed where the Vakrians failed. The coalition defense forces met them with tactics the Sorovs had never encountered. Multiple species working together, each covering the other's weaknesses. The battle lasted 2 weeks and ended with half the Sorov fleet defecting. Their soldiers saw coalition forces treating prisoners with dignity, offering medical care even to enemies. and they questioned why they followed leaders who viewed them as disposable. The Trade Confederacy tried economic warfare, blocking coalition goods from their markets. It backfired spectacularly. The coalition's internal economy was strong enough to survive the isolation. Meanwhile, Confederacy citizens saw quality products and services they couldn't access. Black markets formed. Smuggling increased. Eventually, the Confederacy's leadership realized they were hurting themselves more than the coalition. They negotiated a trade agreement that treated the coalition as an equal partner. Each defeated invasion followed the same pattern. The coalition defended itself effectively, treated enemy soldiers with unexpected decency, and won converts. The idea they represented, that everyone deserved respect and freedom, spread like a virus through the old empires. Rebellions erupted. Workers demanded rights. Soldiers questioned their orders. The empires discovered that military might couldn't defeat an idea whose time had come. 10 years after the first Vacrian invasion, the coalition included hundreds of worlds and dozens of species. Their territory spanned significant portions of the galaxy. But more importantly, their influence reached everywhere. Even on worlds that hadn't joined the coalition, people demanded the freedoms and rights coalition citizens enjoyed. The Morrison siblings became legends. Stories about them spread across the galaxy, often exaggerated but always containing a core truth. 3 alien cubs raised by a human mechanic learned that strength came from compassion. They built an alliance that couldn't be stopped because it was based on willing cooperation. They proved that diversity made you stronger, not weaker. But they never let the legend overshadow the reality. They held regular town halls where any coalition citizen could question them. They admitted mistakes when they made them. They reminded people constantly that the coalition's success wasn't about them. It was about everyone choosing to work together. On the 20th anniversary of the first battle in the neutral zone, the coalition held a massive ceremony on New Haven. The colony where Jake had hidden 3 cubs was now the coalition's spiritual capital. Millions attended in person. Billions more watched from across the galaxy. A statue was unveiled in the main square. Jake Morrison, forever captured in bronze, holding 3 small Vacrian cubs. His face showed the kindness that had changed everything. The cubs looked up at him with trust. Around the statue's base, words were carved in every language spoken in the coalition. He saw not aliens but children. He taught not domination but love. From his example, a galaxy learned to be free. Zara spoke to the assembled crowd, her voice amplified across star systems. My father Kronzar died trying to make our species better. My other father, Jake Morrison, succeeded in making 3 aliens into good people. We carry both their legacies. We're proof that where you come from doesn't determine who you become. What matters is what you choose, Kale added her thoughts. The old empires believed power came from controlling others. We've proven that real power comes from empowering others. Every world that joins us by choice makes us stronger. Every species that shares their knowledge benefits everyone. We're unstoppable not because we can't be defeated in battle, but because the idea we represent can't be killed. Rin finished their joint statement. We welcome anyone who believes in freedom, dignity, and cooperation. We don't care what species you are, where you came from, or what you've done in the past. If you choose to be better, we'll help you. That's the promise Jake Morrison made to 3 abandoned cubs. That's the promise the coalition makes to the galaxy. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for Jake. Across hundreds of worlds, billions of beings, human and alien alike, paused to remember a mechanic who'd done something simple. He'd shown kindness to children who needed it. That one act of basic decency had changed the galaxy forever. The empires that remained independent grew nervous. Their own citizens looked at the coalition and asked dangerous questions. Why couldn't they have the freedoms coalition citizens enjoyed? Why should they follow leaders who didn't answer to them? Why should some species be considered better than others? The Morrison siblings knew the work would never truly be finished. There would always be threats, always be challenges, always be people who preferred domination to cooperation. But they'd proven something crucial. The old way wasn't inevitable. Change was possible. 3 abandoned cubs and 1 stubborn human had started something that couldn't be stopped. Not because it was militarily invincible, though the coalition could defend itself. Not because it was economically dominant, though its economy thrived. The coalition was unstoppable because it offered something the empires couldn't match: hope, choice, The belief that everyone, regardless of species or origin, deserved dignity and freedom. The galaxy would never be the same. The Age of Empires was ending. The Age of Cooperation was beginning. And it all started with a mechanic finding 3 cubs in a crashed ship and making a simple choice: to help rather than hurt, to protect rather than profit, to love rather than fear. That choice echoed across the stars, proving that sometimes the smallest acts have the largest consequences. That kindness is its own kind of power. That family is what you make it. That different doesn't mean lesser. The Alpha had abandoned his cubs with a human, hoping only to save their lives. He'd accidentally saved the entire galaxy,